is Joey Schindler, and today I will be interviewing my grandfather, Max Schindler, who is a Holocaust survivor. Okay, so tell me about where you grew up.
I was born in Germany in 1929. We were a family of five, my brother 1 year older, my sister 1 year younger. And I grew up in that city and was 9 years old when we were pushed out of it.
And was your community very Jewish?
We were modern Jews. We had a nice large synagogue. I remember there being an organ. We went to services on Friday night, and we would be sitting on the pulpit near the rabbi, school children, like helping the rabbi.
And what did your parents do?
My parents, my dad had a store, a wine and spirits store, which is what's called off-liquor store, in bottles only, and it was going pretty well till 1937, when the Nazis started writing on the Jewish stores owned by the Jews.
And did your father lose his job because of all the anti-Semitism?
The store was actually taken away from him and given over to an Aryan, intact in total.
And before the war started, did you know anything about Hitler or anything about the Nazis?
Yes, we did know. We were very well aware that there is anti-Semitism and there is problems coming down the line. And we tried to get out of it, or tried to leave Germany, and started making papers. One of our cousins in San Francisco made affidavits for us, but they never completed, and they started probably in 1937, and by the time we were forced out of Germany, it did not get completed.
And were you allowed to go to school at the time?
We did have that privilege, yes, because we were foreigners, so we were able to go to school.
What was it like to be forced out of your home?
Pretty bad, because it was a total different experience. We were pushed into Poland. I did not speak any Polish, and after trials and tribulations, we wound up with my grandmother. She had a large home and a semi-farm, self-sustaining type farm, and we tried to wait out the war over there. The war was imminent, and we were in the back, back country in small villages, and they were not there all the time, but once in a while they moved through with their big armed trucks, etc., etc. We would go hide in the woods and wait till they disappeared.
And did you go to a concentration camp?
Okay, and when it came to deliver yourselves to a ghetto, it was an edict. You have to deliver yourself to a ghetto by a certain date in 1942. My father actually bribed his way into a small working camp which was near the village that we lived in, with some knickknacks that we packed in 3 suitcases when we were exiled from Germany.
And how were you transported to wherever you went next?
From there we went by trucks to the next camp. That first camp lasted a few months, and then from that camp we went by large trucks to Mielec, which was an aircraft factory, and we built the bombers for the Germans. Still in Poland. It was a large camp, and that was a full-sized camp. We were in uniform, we were undernourished, we were in barracks, 3 levels of bunk beds, and bad scene.
So what happened next?
We went from camp to camp, from that camp to as the Russians were pounding from the east, and they wouldn't let go of us, so they moved us to another camp, to Wieliczka, and from Wieliczka they moved us to another camp, to Plaszów. That's the famous camp. And after dismantling Plaszów in 1944, they put us on kettle cars got further. And as the cattle cars are moving, you know, on the rail tracks to the right, the people said, "Oops, we're going to go to Auschwitz," because Auschwitz was very close to Plaszow. And the cattle cars roamed from the right to the left, to the right to the left, and then started going. Finally, we went off to the left, and we started moving, and we wound up in Germany, in another camp, Chachwitz, near Dresden.
And what were the living conditions like there?
The living conditions were very poor. It was a smaller camp. The living conditions were such that we were living on top of the factory. We were intermingled with German prisoners, and they were murderers. And they were big guys and older guys, and they were not our people, and I was terribly scared to be in the middle of all that mess. And we were in that camp for a while, and Dresden was bombed in February of 1945. And the whole city was burned, and our factory was caught up in that bomb raid. And they leveled the city, and they didn't level our factory, but burned the top floor, so we had nothing, no place to live. We wound up in the open, and we're hoping that the Russians would catch up with us, because you could hear the armaments in the background coming from the east. And they didn't come, and it took us 2 days to roam around over there. They rounded us all up. There was nowhere to flee. We were in uniforms, we were shaved heads, we looked like Musulman, which means skin and bones. You couldn't intermingle into the city was burning. And we were taken on a forced march, on a death march to Theresienstadt.
And did you go to another camp after that?
No, and we were at that's the one we were liberated in.
And what did it feel like mostly to be liberated after all that you have gone through?
It was very good to be free again. It was empowering. We can maybe do things on our own, and they allowed us to go back to our cities where we came from, and actually provided buses and trains, and we had no place to go. I was under 16, and we didn't want to go anywhere, and we found out that they gathered up. There was a rumor that they are going to gather up the orphans, and they're looking for 1,000 orphans, and they have permission to go to England. And they were looking for 1,000 kids, and they couldn't find them, and we wound up finding 732, and we were called The Boys. There's a book out on that.
So in the beginning you said you had a family of 5, and then later on you said that you, your brother, and your father stayed together. What happened to the rest of your family?
Oh, okay, I didn't give enough details. So in the first camp, all 5 of us, the entire family, was able to get in, and we stayed together. In the second camp in Mielec, the women were separated into the women's camp, and we would get notice that they're okay, because we couldn't get into the women's camp, but we would get to know, because once in a while they would send workers in there to do some work in the women's camp, and we would get notice that everything's okay. My sister's still good, and my mother's there. And when we were transferred to Plaszow, the women were taken directly to Stutthof. So they did not stay in Plaszow. Stutthof is another nasty camp. So from Plaszow on, just me, my brother, and my dad were together. And my mother evidently was lost in Stutthof. My sister and mother were lost in Stutthof. And then as we were progressing towards Theresienstadt, and my father was pretty ill, and he was in this semi-hospital area, and all the way up to the Liberation Day, we were able to see him. And then at the day after Liberation Day, we came down with typhoid fever, and we were not able to get back into that little hospital area till 4 weeks later. And by that time, there was no sight of my dad, So it is my hope that my dad survived the war and passed away soon after the war, at least made it through the end of the war. And we talked to all the people that we could get a hold of, and there was no documentation at all as to know exactly what day he died.
So what happened to your brother then?
My brother was liberated. I mean, we stayed together, and we went to England together. Me, my brother,